Welcome to the CAFMA Connect. As you can see again, Chief Freitag is not here, and while normally I try to avoid being here, this time I actually volunteered to be there, and that was more because of co-host today, joined with Kevin Schroeder from the Mighty Oaks. So thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. Obviously, you didn't travel all this way to be here for our podcast that is viewed by tens of viewers, but thanks for coming.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Obviously, we have a resiliency dinner going on. You and your wife spoke last night, and we're doing it again tonight. I think it was a great event, and you're here kind of representing the Mighty Oaks, which I think we've talked about it a few different times on the podcast with Chief Freitag and discussing of what it is, but it's nice to have you on to kind of provide a little more depth of what it is, the background to it, and I think it'd be good. So thank you for joining.
Great to be here.
Yeah. All right. With that, you spent time in the military. You spent time in law enforcement. I think you're actually our first PD officer here in this room, so thanks for doing that also.
Feel honored.
Yeah, you should. This is an amazing honor. So with that, give me a little background on just your experience in the military and then obviously in law enforcement.
Okay, just a couple weeks out of high school. Actually, it was 2 weeks after high school. I went to Marine Corps boot camp. During that time frame, I had a girlfriend at the time, and we had been dating for a whopping 2 months and decided that was enough experience for us to get married. So when I went to boot camp, Rachel, my wife, she did all the planning for the wedding, and after boot camp and some other training and went on leave, we got married. A couple weeks after we got married, I deployed to Okinawa, and from there to Desert Storm. And I was overseas for a year and then came home and had been married for a year and had a 3-month-old son. So I'm like, wow, this is a great start. This marriage stuff's easy.
You got it dialed in.
Yeah. Yes. Then we spent our last 2 years at Camp Pendleton, California, and I got out and became a police officer. And I retired as a patrol lieutenant after 21 years in 2018. Just prior to retiring, probably about a year or so, I started, I went through Mighty Oaks myself. Mm-hmm. Someone was telling me that, hey, there's probably some good tools here that can help you deal with some things, the stress that comes with it, maybe from things that stem all the way from experience in the military or just life issues in general. Yeah. And then, I went to the session, got some great tools out of it, and then I went through the leadership pipeline and started contracting as a team leader and then became a program manager. And then 2018 was just a good year to transition out of law enforcement.
Yes, it was, I'm sure.
I started working for Mighty Oaks full time. So for them, I program manage the veteran sessions that are in Ohio and Texas, and all the first responder sessions, which we pretty much do at all of our sessions. And when I'm not in a session, I'm the training manager. So basically, leader development for all the leaders that we have.
Nice. Obviously, we'll kind of go into a little bit of a program here in a little bit, but, you mentioned, obviously, got married a couple months after dating, and then you left, and obviously came back, and you had it dialed in. You were married a year already, and had a baby and everything. So that is some of, obviously, Rachel is not with us today, but with you this evening, kind of sharing both sides of it. I know when I attended the program, I attended in June of 2020, I got to hear your side of the story, and obviously you share, the in-depth challenges of marriage, and obviously the, getting married young like that, and then the kind of the challenges of the career. But it was interesting to hear last night, obviously Rachel's the other side of the story, and there's always another side of the story. No matter what is going on, there's always that other side of the story. So that was kind of cool to have you both there last night. And the event, we had, husbands and wives there, first responders from around the community. And I thought it was a great opportunity kind of for both of you guys to share the challenges of life. And then how, some of what the Mighty Oaks has helped in giving tools. You kind of said that a little bit ago. It's tools that are given in the midst of all those challenges, because we're all going to be challenged. And some folks have never even seen the tools or seen the tools kind of modeled for them by their own parents or anybody in their lives. And so sometimes they come with an empty tool bag.
Right.
And some folks come with tools that just need to be sharpened. So I think that's, a huge part of what the program provided for me as well. So just real quick, as a program manager, kind of just give an outline. So people, the tens of viewers we have watching have heard the Mighty Oaks, and what the concept is. But as a program manager, what do you do for the week?
Okay, so we prior to a session, we look at the participants that are signed up to come, and all of the veteran sessions, we usually have at least one first responder, whether that's a medic, a fireman, or a police officer. But usually we have a few. Like we just finished one last week in Ohio, where we had 4 firemen and a couple police officers that were in the mix with the veteran, and it works well. There's a lot of connection between the trauma and military and first responder world. So we basically, my responsibility is to form the staff for the week, and I'm the liaison between our venue staff that we have there, the volunteers or the ranch owners that we use, and we just coordinate. When we get to a session, we come a day early. We do leader development, and then we just set up for the session and get ready for the classes that we have throughout the week, and just to make sure that we accommodate everybody. And we spend a lot of time in prayer. We pray for those that are coming because we know that there's people with all kinds of different backgrounds, and a lot of what they might be dealing with may not have anything to do with being a first responder or veteran. May stem from childhood trauma or just stuff in general in life.
Yeah, no, like I say, it's interesting, being a part of the program and seeing that the depth of what challenges us in life and just in the career in general. We don't always know what people are dealing with and what people are fighting. Right. And I think even last night, you guys did a great job sharing, and I think the audience, you can look in the audience and you can sometimes see, the hurt, the pain, and you don't always know what it is. And I think what you guys provided last night was hope. And I think that's what, we talked about it this week, but a big part of what the Mighty Oaks does is provide hope in the midst of all of it. Because, we've seen it. We've had, loss from suicide in our community, both in the law enforcement and the fire side. And, the community has experienced a lot of loss in the past as well. And what you see, it feels like, is isolation. And I know that's a big theme from, the Mighty Oaks in trying to prevent that. Can you share a little bit on how, what the Mighty Oaks does to try to encourage folks not to be isolated?
Yes. So Mighty Oaks is faith-based, and that's if I had to wrap up what happens in a week is, or what our goal is to share hope. Yeah. So no matter what somebody's background may be, hope is definitely something that is intriguing and attractive for sure. And we some of the classes that we have during the week are like brotherhood. Yeah. So brotherhood is a way, we teach from a biblical perspective because brotherhood, goes all the way back 4,000 years in the Old Testament. Same with post-traumatic stress. So we use biblical principles, and we encourage guys and gals to not isolate, because some of the deepest, darkest feelings or actions that we do occur when we try to fight our battles alone. Yeah. And we want to teach first responders and veterans that never fight alone. That's one of our mantras.
Yes, you say it. I think it's on the back of your shirt. Never fight alone, and I think that's a big key, for folks. And you look at the fire service. We talk about brotherhood. Police is the same thing. A lot of talk about brotherhood, sisterhood. All that comes with that. But I don't think anybody has ever seen, the transparency that comes from the Mighty Oaks and from the staff of the Mighty Oaks. Can you explain a little bit for anybody watching what you like, the transparency that people see there?
Sure.
From the staff and just from other participants.
Yeah, that's a big element of the program. And those that the participants that attend, they get it the first night. We'll have an instructor that will share their testimony. An example would be, myself. If I was to describe myself to somebody I just met, I'd say, my name is Kevin. I had a background in the military and police, and I've been married to Rachel for 32 years. We have 3 adult kids and 2 grandchildren. I mean, that looks great. Yeah. That's the mask that I like to keep mask. On. But if you look deep inside, you wouldn't know that 7 years years into our marriage, we were a signature away from divorce. That we experienced some tragedy and some loss that were that it was just devastating in our lives, and we were not equipped to handle some of this stuff. We didn't, with some of the tools that were not given to us that maybe should have. Yeah. So, those tools that we talk about will help handle not only stuff that, I like to use the rucksack analogy, because, that's the stuff that you stuff inside a pack, whether you're, whatever is the first responder in whatever category that may be, fire, police, we have these equipment bags or whatever. And we have those in life too, where we just keep stuffing stuff down. And, so the tools that we offer help, deal with those, but also to make us more resilient to keep pressing forward. Yeah. We take the D out of post-traumatic stress because we don't think, that veterans or first responders are broken. We know that they're not. Sure. And, that we just weren't created to carry that stuff, those burdens. And, so we lay all that out and on the first night and throughout the week. So that just opens the door for those that are attending to do the same thing. And there's just healing in being able to dump that ruck out. Yes. No matter what it looks like.
Yeah. And I think, just from my own experience and watching, people dump out that ruck. And it was amazing how different circumstances, but same challenges in the depth of the heart. And somebody's story, somebody's testimony, somebody's challenge in life resonated with somebody else in there. And I imagine you've been in a lot of sessions. I guarantee that's probably a common theme from one session to another is how much someone's story, someone's challenge resonates with somebody. Like, I thought I was the only one battling this. Absolutely. And you realize, no, we're all battling. Sometimes if you break it all down and the core of what we're facing, in the core of our heart, like, no, we're all battling that. So I think that was a huge part. That transparency was a huge part of, even what I witnessed and what I took from the program was just real, obviously the program I attended was the men's program, but it was a real men sharing real challenges. And some of those challenges were things that you don't share with anybody. You come to work, you put that mask on, myself included, you paint it up real pretty, and you don't ever share that. And that is a great opportunity at the program to share some of that stuff. And I think once you do, it becomes easier and you become less fearful of it. So I think there's a lot of fear sometimes with whatever challenge we have, whatever we do in the dark. I'm fearful of anybody knowing that, versus get rid of it and dump it out there at the Mighty Oaks and move on. And I know some of the folks that have attended here in our organization have described it as that. One of our BCs just recently attended in Texas, in Junction, and he said, there's some things I left in Junction that I don't plan to carry back home with me. It's like, that is awesome. Yes, and you look at them, and I'm not trying to call them out here, but you can see it. And it's like, that's the hope that I think, resonates from the folks that go and come back is that change. Yes. So, awesome. So how much longer do you plan to keep going with the Mighty Oaks?
As long as possible. This is, I like to describe it as my dream job, because I've just seen, what would look like broken people come back to life. And they're not broken. They're just in what I call like a holding pattern, to regroup. And because that's what it was like for me, and sometimes we like to think, or we buy in to the deception that we're broken and that there's no fixing. But there is hope no matter what the circumstances look like. That's why we have the transparency. That's why when we show that, hey, this is what it looked like. I use the phrase from Scripture in Isaiah where it says that God can take beauty from the ashes. And so I've seen that personally in my own life, and I see it to those that come through sessions.
What would you say to anybody obviously watching this or listening to this that is apprehensive about going? Because a lot of times, I think even at a session, you have people that are signed up that never arrive. And there's all kinds of circumstances that cause that. But I think there's also a fear that of going there, fear of like what the unknown. Some folks just don't ever take the time to sign up. Like, oh, that's a sounds good. I like the idea of hope. I'd like a little hope myself, but I'm not actually going to go there. What would you say to anybody that's kind of on that fence that we can just push them over?
Well, I'd like to encourage them to let them know that there's no fires that they're going to have to run to, no bullets that they'll be running into, and I say that because first responders are willing to do that.
Yes.
And it will be something that is much more safer physically, but it is definitely something we've learned and we're trained to fight for. The things in our professions, but what about the important things like our marriage or even the next generation, our kids or our grandkids? I mean, somebody hit the fast forward button in my life and, now I'm almost 50 years old. I got 2 grandkids. I'm like, wait, what happened? We're empty nesters and, it just, and I feel a responsibility even still to my adult kids and my grandkids to help equip them. Yeah. Be the men and women that God created them to be. So anybody that has apprehension, I would say the only thing it's going to cost you is your time. Yeah. It is donor funded. It is an opportunity to get with like-minded individuals who you will find out are struggling with the same things or have the same apprehensions that you might have. But it is, I can't put words, I always say this, to what actually happens at a session. But it is impactful. I've never met anybody that, told me after a session, said, man, I regret coming. I wish I wouldn't have. It was like, man, I wish I would have done this earlier, right? So, and it doesn't matter where you're at in life. Maybe life's going good, but I always say you're either in the valley or on the hilltop. And if you've been on the hilltops, the valleys are coming. And there's an opportunity to be better equipped to handle those valleys and stuff. So I would just encourage men and women to come to the programs. I mean, the reason why it's donor funded is because there are people that are putting their money where their mouth is, and they're saying, hey, we think first responders in America are worth fighting for. Yeah. So if you haven't been told that in a while, you're worth fighting for.
That's good. And I think that was, what you guys mentioned last night. And I think it was cool, the opportunity to try to encourage both, husbands and wives to the program, because obviously not only are you worth fighting for, but your significant other is worth fighting for as well. And sometimes they get lost in the mix, like, no, my job, I'm fighting for my job, I'm doing the things that I'm trained to do, and we forget that fight that's at home. And I know for myself, when I signed up for the Mighty Oaks, I wasn't in a position where I felt like I was in a deep valley. But at the same time, I remember I wrote on there that I've trained for thousands of hours to be a better firefighter, to be a better leader, to be a better, in whatever position I'm in this organization. Man, I've had to sign task booklets, to go through like this training. But I couldn't point back to anything that specific where I trained to be a better husband, a better father, a better son, and just tools to just kind of walk through some of the challenges in life. I couldn't point back to any of that, and I know that's what I walked away with the Mighty Oaks from. And ultimately, I think I am better at all the work stuff as well. I think it helped strengthen me there. But again, I couldn't point back to like, no, this is what I did to be better in that part of my life. And certainly, that's what I feel like it provided me in the midst of all of that. So again, it's those tools and a part of our lives that sometimes we take for granted. We take that home life for granted, and sometimes that what you see for folks, that starts to fall apart, and then it spills out at work, and then you're trying to deal with both sides of it. This job is hard enough, whether it's police, whether it's fire, whether it's EMS. I think we want to do some of that job, though. It's no different than going to war, right? I mean, I think Chad, when he was here, spoke about it. Like, you're trained in certain parts of, your job. Like, you want to do that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that causes challenges. I mean, we're trained in the fire service to put out fires, to try to bandage people up. Some people don't make it, and that causes those little slow drip you described of challenges. But if we didn't get to do all that stuff, we'd probably look at our career as like, well, how worthwhile was it? I didn't get to do some of those things. Those same things end up causing more baggage. So it's being able to navigate through that. And I think the Mighty Oaks helps do that. So
yeah, definitely.
They're speaking one more time tonight, and I think it's going to be great. I think, looking at the kind of the participants last night, I think they walked away hopefully with a little bit of hope, in the midst of all that. And I think some of that hope is comes even at a session with the rest of the team leaders. I think the team leaders, the core group that you put together each session, I think it seems, just in my own observations, participation, those men and obviously women in the women's program provide a little bit of hope even in that session. Can you describe kind of how those team leaders, the folks that are kind of leading those breakouts, how they impact the group and participants?
Right. Yeah. So every person that we have that's a team leader or it's on staff has been a participant at a session, and so it's peer-to-peer mentoring. So you're kind of talking to somebody that they know where you've been, and sometimes it almost seems like I had a guy last night come to me after the dinner last night, and after we spoke, and he said, "Man, you were up there telling my story."
Yeah.
So you have that connection when you get there. And then when they hear it from somebody, it's like, okay, you've been in my shoes, you've been in similar situations, and then they see how their life has been transformed and changed by the tools that are offered and what happens at a session. Then they have a lot more buy-in to that hope. Like, okay, we had a guy come to a session a couple years ago. I kind of gave what I talked about last night. I say at the beginning of a session, he heard it, ate dinner, and then left and drove 5 hours home. And then at midweek, he contacted me via email and says, "Man, I wish I would have looked into this more. I just got on the website and checked out a video testimony of somebody I was in combat with. I had no idea he went through Mighty Oaks."
Yeah.
And, I saw the transformation and change in his life just on that video testimony. And I was like, man, if I know that if this could have worked in his life, I know it can work in my life. So the interesting thing about that is the person that was in the video giving his testimony had passed away a couple of years prior to a motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
So, his legacy, because these are called legacy programs, is still speaking.
Yeah.
And so it gave this guy hope. We were able to, talk, discuss about maybe him coming to a future program.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and you kind of said it right in the midst of all that, legacy, and we're going to leave a legacy. Sometimes we like to think like, well, this is going to be my legacy. We don't always get to define what our legacy looks like simply by what I want it to look like. Oftentimes it is defined for us based on our actions and how we interact in life. And that is a great example of how someone changed their legacy. Someone changed their heading to where it's going to change other people's lives. And you kind of said too, where from the standpoint of a family, there's sometimes family history where one challenge is passed down to another, whether it's abuse in the home, whether it's, talking about sexual abuse, verbal abuse, all that stuff. Sometimes that stuff is passed down because it's never stopped. And that's a legacy. And a huge part of the program, being a legacy program, is you write out your legacy plan and how you're going to change it when you go back. And I think that's a huge part of the Mighty Oaks. It's not just a week-long program. You guys stay in touch with those folks. And they're encouraged to write out this plan to how are you going to change your legacy? How are you going to end that pattern of whatever it is in life? How are you going to end that? And I think that's a huge part of success. Can you talk a little bit about how the Mighty Oaks continues the follow-up after the folks leave?
Yes, definitely. So we have an aftercare program. So what that looks like is we have what's called an outpost. So there's outposts all throughout the United States. Some areas don't have them. I know you have one in the area, and it's a weekly gathering of either alumni or first responder or veterans, that will get together and kind of wrestle. Like it's like a continuing education, right?
Yes,
I'm done with the program now. I know that I'm going back to what I left, and now I got to put those tools into use. And, that's one of the things that we implement, the outposts, to the Never Fight Alone. I have people that I can lean on to do that and that can hold me accountable. But those that don't have outposts in the area, we will equip them to start an outpost.
Yeah.
And we'll give them the training and the tools to do that. But also, once you become alumni, then your spouse is eligible to come to a women's program. And, the women's program is a lot like the men's program, but that the spouses get to learn how to unpack some of their own stuff, but also deal with some stuff that maybe they didn't sign up for, like being married to a first responder. At first, it sounds great, uniform looks great and everything, right? But some of the anxiety that comes with that and everything, it gets passed down. I saw it in my own life and my kids, and those are red flags. Like, whoa, I gotta make some changes, right? But also, we've partnered with Family Life, and they're a Christian organization that has marriage weekend remembers is what they're called, in all major cities in the United States. So we'll pay for everything except for travel. You just got to get there, and they're at 5-star resorts, and you just pay for your meals while you're there. But we pay for lodging, we pay for the actual event, and it's just an opportunity to get more tools on how to do marriage and parenting and just life.
Yeah. I know for my wife, we got married on a Saturday, and I started my first shift full time on Monday. And she's still waiting for the honeymoon, so that's still something I'll have to correct eventually. But she never knew anything other than like the fire service and being a shift wife. And I remember it was, I don't know, 4 or 6 years into my career, I got the opportunity to go some training, and so I was off for 5 weeks. And I remember at the end of the training, she's like, "No, you need to go back to work. Like this is all I know. I'm a shift, like go back to work." So that has been even a transition in my current role where I'm home 40 hours of work and I'm home every night, which is great. But that was a transition for us as well, just because she knew nothing else. And they are certainly on this journey with us, so yeah, that was an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
One of the things, again, you look at the participants when they come on, that first Monday night, and you start the sharing and the information and the teaching. It's quiet. I mean, it's like people are very, apprehensive. Some folks, though, some folks are already tearing up, and it's just like, man, there's nothing said. Other folks are completely shut down. It is interesting, that transition to the end of the week. Can you describe that transition?
Yeah, I call it locked up. Like their countenance is locked up. Like you can see it. Like their shoulders are as high as they can go. The jaw's locked and tight. And they're not moving their heads or their bodies, but they're moving their eyes everywhere. And they're looking. They're like, man, what's this guy's story? Or what is he doing here? I don't belong here. And then, like I said, when we start off with a welcome and kind of an introduction, we break the ice a little bit with what better way to do that than with food. It's one thing that veterans and first responders can do is we can break bread together good.
Yes.
So we do that, and then we have a rules and promises class, where you talk about, hey, this is a safe environment to share whatever. And then, we have that instructor testimony. So even after that first night, after the instructor testimony, then we give the guys an opportunity. It's like, okay, you saw 20 minutes of just utter transparency and authenticity. Yeah. Give us a minute and a half of what life looks like for you right now. Why are you here? And then we let them talk. And then when they start hearing each other, like the guy sitting next to me is like, whoa, like they're already starting to relate to one another. Yeah. So, by the next morning at chow time, we're hearing like they're laughing together.
Yes.
And then throughout the week, I remember at one session we had a Navy captain, and to me, he was an older gentleman, and I was talking to some of the we had some lower ranking officers that were there at that session, and I was like, well, that's a Navy captain, big deal. He's like, no, this guy's a captain of a naval fleet of destroyers. So I Googled him and saw a chest full of medals and stuff, but he was there at the end of the session exchanging phone numbers with an active duty Marine Corps corporal, which that's on two different ends of the spectrum. One eats crayons, the other one has an education, and we know which one does what, right? Yes, yeah. So, and then these guys were able to connect because at the end of the day, what's at a session is men.
Yes.
Or women that are just trying to, align their lives with the life that God created to live, get the right tools to press forward.
Yeah. No, like you say, it was interesting. I think it was the first session I did as in phase training to join the leadership part of it. We were at Sky Rose, which is kind of on a little bit of a hilltop. And I remember I walked up like behind the house, on that, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. And, the lights are on down there, and it kind of shines on top of that hill, and it was quiet. You saw a couple people talking here, a couple people talking there, and it was just, nothing exciting. And it was interesting because Thursday, opportunity is given to the folks to kind of share their story again. They're encouraged to just to kind of continue to hopefully empty out that rucksack, tap the bottom of it, get the last parts of it out. And I remember, I think it was that Thursday evening, I had gone and walked back up, and I was just kind of standing there, and you could hear the conversations. You could hear the joy, and you could hear just a change in the whole environment that was there. And it was kind of cool to kind of just sit there and listen. And there was joy, there was hope, and obviously it doesn't end there. People go back into the fight. And I think that's where those outposts, you kind of mentioned already, that outpost, the aftercare, trying to help people understand, like you can put all those tools in your tool bag, but you have to use them. You have to put them to work. And if you go home and you don't put them to work, you're going to find yourself in the same position. And we do find people in the same position. I think, Mike Griffin, Tulsa PD, not somebody I would certainly want to, see in a dark alley if I was a bad guy. But he described it. You guys give a rudis. And I'll have you explain that in a second. But he described, like, some of you guys need to give that rudis back. And that's a good challenge because you're given that as a kind of a symbol of freedom. But at the same time, you can kind of enslave yourself again to just the challenges of life if you're not careful. Can you explain why they're given that?
Yeah, definitely. We have a great partnership with Purple Heart Armory. You can go to their website. You can get rudises, those Thor hammers, the tip of the spear. They're great for the veterans and first responders. We love to give like manly gifts, if you will.
Swag. We
got good swag. Yeah. And the cool thing about them is, when we order rudises and stuff, they give us 90% off. That's cool. Just another way that we see, like, wow, there's people out there who really love first responders and veterans. Yeah. So the rudis is a symbol. When it's about 3 feet long, maybe a little bit longer, and it's. I mean, if you've seen Gladiator, you know what a gladiator sword looks like, but this is a wooden one.
Yes.
So we have the American flag on there, and we'll have their designation next to their name as whether they're a veteran or first responder or both, and it says, basically it's a symbol of, Broderius back in the day was a former gladiator, and he earned his freedom from fighting a significant battle or several battles, and when they were seen out in public with the rudis, it was a symbol. It was like, whoa, that guy used to be a slave. He was bound, but he's a free man now. So we give those rudises as an example. Put this in your me room or on your me wall, right? And as a reminder, that hey, I'm not bound to that stuff that was in my ruck or in my past. I mean, I can move forward and still be resilient and still be better and still thrive. And it's just a symbol that we give them as a reminder. It's like, hey, you are free, and it points them back to those tools that we give them, to persevere and keep going forward.
Perfect. Any last words of wisdom before we shut this down?
No, I just I would love to just encourage anybody that's listening that's a first responder or veteran, just to not give up. We've seen people give up, and we've seen first responder suicide, and we've seen what that looks like in the lives of the widows. And all you do is transfer your pain to them. So they just have to deal with it. So, we speak out against first responder suicide, veteran suicide, and we believe there's a better way. We know there's a better way. We've seen it. And, if that's where you're at, or if it's not that dire, whatever the circumstances look like, don't give up. Give this a chance. If what you're doing isn't working, why not try something else? You'll hear that throughout the week. We give it to you in your binder. That's the questions of the week. If what you're doing isn't working, why not try something else? Well, I used to say we believe this is something else, but I know this is something else because I've experienced it and I've seen it. Yeah. So give it a chance. There's nothing to lose. Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. And for anybody out there, I hope you heard that. If what you're doing is not working, try something else. Jonah is going to put a link to the Mighty Oaks in the description because he is tech savvy and can do that. So thank you, Jonah. And next week, Chief Freitag will be back, and he'll be meeting with the new Prescott Fire Chief, Hober Durr, and they're going to go through just kind of what they've been working on. But until then, keep working hard and stay safe. Thank you.